everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women, an initiative to bring the women in lean and agile spaces in these organizations together so we can share and spread the messages across and offer to each other and seek from each other in a psychologically safe space. And as part of this initiative, we launched, an initiative called LIA100, also called Lean and Agile 100. This is an effort to bring 100 women across the globe together on a platform called LIA100, so they can share their journeys, their challenges, their triumphs, and inspire us with their resilience and their strength. And again, I want to reiterate that these are 100 among many because there's so many women out there. We will first bring 100 to you, and then we will continue to bring more and more stories to you. As part of this, today we have an incredible woman from Australia, down under, Sofia Woloschin. Hi, Sofia. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Padmini. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, Sofia. Why don't I introduce you to our audience? I'll say a few words and then we will dive right up, okay? All right, so
Yes.
a little bit about Sofia. Sofia is a business agility coach and a personal development coach. She coaches managers and leadership to manage the systems rather than people, which I thought is just incredible. That's how it should be. And she creates space for teams to become autonomous, collaborative cells. She's a catalyst, she's a propeller, and she models the behaviors that we all aspire, such as being conscious, being compassionate, being committed, being resilient, trustworthy, self-actualized, and most importantly, intrinsically motivated. So welcome, Sofia, again. We are so happy to have you here and looking forward to learning, about where you came from and, what inspired you to be where you are today. So let's start with that, Sofia. If you can tell us a little bit about what brought you into this agile space and how was the journey like? If you can briefly talk to us about that.
Thanks, Padmini. Oh, yeah, it's a long time now. It's been many years. When I started my career in technology, I was very young because I actually come from Argentina. We've been living in Australia for 11 years, when I was young, I was always very curious about people's dynamics and relationships, and this is because of a very difficult upbringing that I had. So I was always curious, willing to understand people, to understand myself, and to connect with them in a way that was fulfilling. So that accompanied my career. And in working in technology, I was always attracted to engaging in the dynamics teams, dynamics interactions with users. So all the aspects of the human relationship and the human engaging with the technology. So in that process, I learned, I researched, I was very curious in experimenting. For example, it was around 2006 when I was bringing some ideas, some of the learnings I was actually experiencing with Agile to my teams in Argentina, and this was something quite, not heard of over there. So it took me many years to actually settle in a job where I was given the opportunity to fully embrace Agile, and that happened when I moved to Australia. So that's been probably the reason why, that curiosity about people, and also the intrinsic understanding that we couldn't just go and tell people how to do their work, what to do, and even take responsibility on the work that they produce themselves. So that was probably the process for me.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, that's fantastic, Sophia. And I think you mentioned, that struggle, as you were coming up, right? The struggle as you were, finding your footing, right? As we talk. So, as you were warming up to the teams and to the organizations, Sophia, tell us a little bit about what were some of the challenges that came, in your way, and if you can recollect some of the profound challenges leading to some kind of learning, I think that'll be very valuable for us.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I would say that there are specific situations, but there are also there was a sort of underlying perception that when I was being myself, when I was truly sharing my thoughts, my ideas, my perspectives, then there were expectations that were unmet. So I was always feeling like the fish outside the water, and wondering how do I make these people happy? Because I think that as women have been raised to believe that we need to work to make people happy, make sure that we're not ruffling the feathers.
Yeah.
So, I taught myself to be quite positioned in those relationships. So I taught myself to please others and to make sure that I was respecting hierarchies and not, challenging others, etc. But deep down, I was feeling that there was a constant tension within myself, and I was very, very unhappy. So, the opportunities where I actually found growth or a sense that I was being myself were the opportunities where I could somehow realize that I needed to pursue that way of being, basically, without worrying about what the others could say or do or believe. And the reason why I made that decision and I started to release myself from those constraints was that the fact that I realized that I wasn't actually hurting anyone in that process in general. So, my coach once told me, well, Sofia, we always hurt people without wanting to do it. And the important thing is that you realize of when you do it and you work with that. But, it was that releasing of that sense of having to please people that was my biggest teacher. And of course, working with my coach.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, really resonated with me, right? That need to please people, and in fact, need to please every one of them, and it's quite impossible if you think about it, right? I think there will always be 10%, 20% of the population around you in your ecosystem who will not like you, given
Yeah.
the nature of human beings, and no matter what you do, by the way, right? No matter what you do. So
Yeah.
I think that release is just so important, right? So on that context, can you share with us how you release that need? Because I think so many of us have it, Sophia. And I mean, is it an internal dialogue, or did you actually do something? How did you let go?
Yeah, well, so first of all was the realization. So, they say awareness is the first step to acknowledging that you want to do something different. So that awareness was that exploring what was that internal tension that I was living with. So that was maybe the first step, having a real conversation with myself, really going deep and trying to understand where that tension was coming from. And all of a sudden, and I did that from, going for walks or sitting under a tree. And much later on, I started working with a coach. But for a few years, I was just, working with that curiosity and trying to understand not just the people around me, but also myself in that context. So that was part of it. And then I specifically started working with a coach and exploring my beliefs and finding, for example, that expectation that we place on ourselves that everybody has to like us. And that's not, as you said, it's not real, not true. And when you start looking, all of a sudden, when you start um, challenging or wondering about your own beliefs and even looking at other people around you, you realize that that's not the way it actually works. So, removing all those layers of uh, expectations that we create for ourselves and getting to the bottom of those. And then you unpack. And that is a process that takes time, but it's absolutely doable and it's so liberating.
It is. It is truly liberating, because I think when you let go of that thing which is tying you to something, it's binding you to something, which is not serving you well, and when you let go of that, it is very liberating. So thank you for sharing that, Sophia. So tell us a little bit about the organizations you work with, because you work with teams and leadership. But what really stood out for me, in your bio, was you model the behaviors that you want to see in other people. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I try. We are humans, and that's another aspect of actually growing and learning to let go, having developing or growing a deep sense of self-compassion. We're just trying, and we are in this world to try and see, where we get. But yeah, the companies I've worked for, well, a plethora of them, because as I said, I started very young, and I've been in business for 28 years now. And I work with big, large corporations and small startup companies. And the interesting thing for me has been finding a universal story in all of these places. It doesn't matter if they are big or small. This conflict with human connection and with relatedness, and all these layers of expectations and a little bit damaging beliefs that we embrace as collectives, especially in organizations. They are everywhere, and that's the stuff that I work with. And it's tough, really, because it can be quite intense, and I think it's a big reason for why the world is having the troubles that it's having. It's all this tension that we create unnecessarily. So those are the things I work with, both with teams, in leaders, and more I'm finding myself doing one-on-one coaching and coaching that goes way beyond the space of agility, coaching for that people actually are really eager to engage with, which is the same thing that happened to me when I started my work with my coach. People really needing to let go of that tension that they have within themselves. So that's the work I do, and I feel incredibly blessed for the opportunity to engage with people with that trust and that openness. And it gives me goosebumps, because if we can work with that, then we can all engage in a different way.
Yeah, in a different dimension, right? And as you said, I think the world will be such a better place, because I think all of us understand that the work needs to be done. It needs to get done. It would be so much more better if we work together, right? In a harmonious way. I wish everybody understands that. So I think, changing the gears, you are a speaker, Sophia. You were one of the speakers on Lean and Agile Spiral recently, but, you're out there, right? You give back to the community quite a bit. Now, I always ask this of all my interviewees, that when you would like to express yourself, either, on social media, or if you would like to come in and chat about your story, whatever you're doing right now, right? Many women are a little bit intimidated apprehensive and not sure about themselves. And everybody has a story. Everybody has an ability to communicate. But I see more so in women, they want to be 100% ready to be able to do that. They always feel underprepared. What would you like to tell us about that, right? When there is that internal dialogue going on that you're not ready, you're not good enough, who are you to go and, share that story anyway? When that happens, I don't know if it happened to you, what would you like to share about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, it certainly happened to me. And I shifted that idea a little bit in the last years because my perception of leadership is very different from that leader that is out there and is an expert and probably better than others. That's not the way that we were meant to be here on earth. So I don't think that anyone is in a position of being better than anyone else. And so if women especially could start thinking in that way and realize that anything that has ever been made or done by any human being can be done again, and if they were able to start to think of how much they are self-judging and they are probably talking to themselves as if they didn't know enough or if they weren't good enough, and they started to develop self-compassion, then all those limited limitations that we put around ourselves just dissipate. One thing that I think is important though to keep in mind is that the social networks have become, in the same way that they've enabled us to connect with people that we would have never had reached to, or with information that we would have never been able to get in touch with in the past, they are also a source of an incredibly negative energy. And that is something that we need to be very conscious of. And I personally don't engage in any way, shape, or form in any space where I see that negativity is present. So in the last years, I've actually preferenced attending sessions, and in the way that we have them in Lean In Agile. So having conversations and really reconnecting with the space of the dialogue. Yeah. So that's probably the place where I would recommend people start with if they are feeling insecure in themselves, and then everything else will just flow and happen.
Yeah. No, I think that is so true. Social media can be it's a tool, right? It depends on how you want to use it. So but I think you're right on, right? I think that that ability is within yourself, and the more we wait for somebody else to enable us or seek everybody's approval is going to be challenging. So yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah. So again, talking about the community, right, Sofia, you talked about reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with the community, just having that positive dialogue. Why do you think giving back to the community is so important?
Well, this is something that I think I've been building up. This is an idea or an understanding that I've been building up with, over the years. And maybe the last thing that I've explored that reconfirms the idea that community and human relationships is actually the thing that we need to work towards is some beautiful interaction that I'm having with one of our Indigenous Australian people who define themselves as the guardians of the land. And if you know, the Indigenous Australian communities actually existed in the world for over 60,000 years. Wow. They are the longest living human societies on Earth. You know, this is Tyson Yankapurta. He wrote a really beautiful book, Sun Talk, and he talks about the way in which indigenous knowledge actually reflects the perspectives of systems connections, and the understanding that life on Earth and our place in Earth is being part of the bigger system of nature and existence. And this is something that I've actually learned in university when I was 18 years old, and I was engaging with systems theory for the first time. And it was such a fascinating journey for me, because it never left me, the notions and the concepts of systems. And those were the aspects of human dynamics and relationships that I would actually connect with when I was working with teams. And so, you know, that's why I had such a natural connection and inclination to learn about Agile. So that expectation of reconnecting us with each other and focusing in the relationships rather than the individuals, the actors. So if we could work to enhance and deepen our relationships, then we would actually realize that it doesn't matter if I'm the most knowledgeable person in a topic, or if you are the kindest individual, because in deepening our connection and our relationship, we learn to accept each other. And that acceptance is the thing that is missing in the world.
Yeah. Oh my God. So well said. Acceptance is missing. So profound. Thank you, Sofia. So as we wrap up, what is your message to our community? If you know, something that you believe in, something that you swear by.
Well, I would say just keep meeting, keep having conversations, and be creative in finding ways to engage in those conversations, because we are also structured by certain beliefs and certain expectations of how we come together in a circle. So explore creatively how you might find going deeper in those relationships, so that you truly get to a point where you are finding this space as a fundamental space for your growth. So if you can keep doing that, then you will probably start letting go of a lot of those painful things that are going on in your head.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful message. I think that is probably very timely. You know, the much needed message that, you know, in this uncertain world that we are living in. That was fantastic. Thank you again, Sofia. And I wish you all the luck. And we wish that you continue to contribute to the community as you're doing today. And please keep the wonderful work going. Thank you.
Thank you, Padmini. And you too, by the way. We absolutely need the work that you are doing with the beautiful Lean In Agile community. So thanks. Thank you for having me.